The story begins not with a single night, but with a whisper, a story passed between friends, cab drivers, and bar patrons in the 1930s. They spoke of a young woman in a pale gown, wandering the roadside near Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. She was beautiful, they said, light hair, blue eyes, quiet, and sad. She looked real, almost too real, until she disappeared. But behind this chilling tale lies a deeper mystery. Who was she, and why does she still haunt this place? To understand Resurrection Mary, we must go back to the days of dance halls, automobiles, and heartbreak. It was the time of jazz and swing. The Great Depression weighed heavily on the city, yet music still poured out of every tavern and dance hall. The O. Henry Ballroom, later renamed the Willow Brook Ballroom, stood just a few miles from Resurrection Cemetery. It was here, according to most versions of the legend, that Mary's story began. Some say her name was Mary Bregovy. Others insist it was Anna Norkus. But all versions agree on one haunting point. She would never leave that ballroom alive. One version of the story tells of an argument. Mary, upset after a quarrel with her date, stormed out into the night. It was cold, and she had no coat, only her evening gown, white satin catching the moonlight. She decided to walk home, following the dimly lit Archer Avenue. A car sped by, its driver distracted, perhaps tired or drunk. The impact was sudden, brutal. Mary was thrown to the roadside. The driver never stopped. Later, they buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, the same white gown adorning her still body. And soon after she came back. The earliest documented reports surfaced in the late 1930s. Local drivers claimed to see a young woman walking along Archer Road, seemingly dazed. When offered a ride, she would climb into the back seat and give a nearby address, one that led directly to the cemetery gates. Sometimes, she'd vanish as the car approached the entrance. Other times, she'd simply fade away, leaving behind a cold chill and the faint scent of roses. One of the most famous early witnesses was a man named Jerry Paulus, a Chicago native who swore under oath that he had met and danced with the ghost herself. He described meeting a quiet, pretty blonde at a dance one night. They talked, laughed, and shared a few songs. When the evening ended, she asked him to drive her home, along Archer Avenue. They passed the cemetery gates. She asked him to stop. Before he could turn his head, she was gone. Paulus, confused and frightened, went to the address she'd given him the next day. An elderly woman answered the door. She told him her daughter, Mary, had been dead for years. Word of the strange hitchhiker spread quickly. By the early 1940s, Resurrection Mary had become a household name in Chicago folklore. Taxi drivers refused to pick up women near the cemetery after dark. Bars and diners along Archer Road traded stories of glowing apparitions, mysterious footprints, and eerie knocks on car windows. In the decades that followed, the sightings continued, each eerily similar, yet slightly changed, as if the story itself was alive, reshaping through every retelling. And yet, no one could prove anything. Police dismissed most reports as hoaxes or tricks of the light. Skeptics argued it was folklore, a modern ghost story for an industrial city. But some investigators began to dig deeper, looking for the woman behind the myth. In 1973, paranormal researcher Richard Crowe, known for documenting Chicago hauntings, began collecting witness statements. He was fascinated by the consistency of the reports. A pale, blonde young woman in a light dress, always on or near Archer Avenue, always vanishing by Resurrection Cemetery. Crowe believed that the ghost could be the restless spirit of Mary Bregovy, a 21-year-old girl who died in a car crash in 1934. Her death certificate placed her burial at Resurrection Cemetery, though skeptics noted that her accident occurred far from Archer Avenue. Another possibility, Anna Norkus, also died young in a similar auto accident in 1927, dressed for a dance the night she died. Two young women. Two tragedies. One ghost. Could Resurrection Mary be the spirit of one of them, or the collective memory of both? Chicago, 1930s. A time of jazz clubs, Prohibition-era speakeasies, and restless nights under the glow of street lamps. But on the outskirts of the city, along a lonely stretch of road known as Archer Avenue, something strange began to happen. Locals spoke of a girl, a young woman dressed in white, often seen walking alone on cold winter nights. Her skin pale, her movements slow, almost gliding. Drivers passing by felt an eerie chill, as if someone unseen watched from the roadside. Those brave enough to stop claimed she asked for a ride, soft-spoken, polite, and distant. She'd give an address, usually near Resurrection Cemetery, and then she'd vanish before reaching it. At first, it sounded like rumor, a ghost story meant to spook travelers. But as reports grew, one truth became impossible to ignore. Every account described the same girl, the same chilling moment when she disappeared into thin air. Her name, whispered across Chicago for nearly a century, became legend, Resurrection Mary. The earliest known account dates back to the late 1930s. A young man leaving a ballroom on Chicago's South Side noticed a woman outside in the cold, wearing a white dress, shivering under the streetlight. He offered her a ride. She introduced herself simply as Mary. They talked quietly. She was distant but kind. When the car reached the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, she asked him to stop. "Here," she said softly. "This is where I have to go." Before the man could reply, she opened the door, stepped out, and disappeared into the iron gates. When he got out to look, there was no one there. The snow was untouched. Only the faint imprint of handprints lingered on the frosty fence. The story spread fast through Chicago. Some dismissed it as imagination. Others claimed to have seen her themselves. But as the years passed, the sightings became too frequent to ignore. Archer Avenue, once just a quiet suburban road, became infamous. Locals said you could feel her presence if you drove there after midnight. A sudden chill, flickering headlights, the scent of lilies in the air. And sometimes, if you were unlucky enough, she'd appear beside you. Just west of Chicago, in Justice, Illinois, stands a place of silence and shadows, Resurrection Cemetery. A sprawling burial ground dating back to the 1900s, it's the final resting place of over 150,000 souls. During the day, it's peaceful, rows of white headstones under sunlight and rustling trees. But at night, it changes. Locals have long believed that this cemetery is where Mary's restless spirit remains trapped. The legend ties her to a tragic accident from the 1930s. A young woman was said to have attended a dance at the O. Henry Ballroom, now the Willowbrook Ballroom. After an argument with her date, she left on foot, walking home along Archer Avenue. It was a bitterly cold night. She never made it home. The next morning, her body was found near the cemetery gates. She'd been struck by a vehicle and left to die. The driver was never found. Her parents buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, wearing the same white dress she'd worn that night. And that's when the hauntings began. For nearly a century, countless drivers, police officers, and travelers have reported seeing her, a lone figure in white, walking the road between the ballroom and the cemetery gates. The most famous evidence came in 1976, when a driver claimed to have seen a woman trapped inside the locked cemetery. Authorities who responded found burned handprints seared into the iron bars of the front gate, as if someone, or something, had tried to claw its way out.